schedule I run, absolutely, absolutely.
So, Ren, we sat down at the media tour and we talked about tanks. And I had a
Yes.
blast talking to you. And I felt a very clear gap in the amount of knowledge that I have and the amount of knowledge that you've amassed. And as we get closer to Endwalker and people ask what jobs they should play and all that, I'm seeing a gap in even the knowledge I have and people who are just getting into 14 and maybe want to try tanking. And so I thought
Sure.
we could sit down and talk about this. And I think the best place to start is for people that say, okay, what's the best tank to start with? Does it matter which one I play?
That sounds like a pretty good starting point. And you know what? It does matter. What matters is that you play the one that you like. For example, I play Gunbreaker because I love it. I was already max level when I decided I wanted to start tanking. Like, all right, I already have Warrior. This was back in Heavensward. It's easy. When Gunbreaker launches, just unlock it. You're good. You're good. If you're going to start the game, let's say you're getting into Final Fantasy today, you're like, what tank am I going to pick? You know, what do we do? What do we do, Chris? What do we do, Ren? What are we going to do? I'm like, all right, well, you can't begin the game as a Dark Knight or a Gunbreaker because it's not accessible immediately. So you're going to have to start with either a Warrior or a Paladin, right? I would
Gunbreaker's not
suggest
even the
starting
free
with a
trial.
Warrior. Nope. Nope. But Dark Knight is, so you do get your chance. You do get your chance. I strongly suggest everybody starts with a Warrior. And the reason why is there's a lot more to tanking than just standing in front of the boss, right? You're going to have to position things properly. You have a mitigation set that you have to run. So basically, you're doing a DPS rotation and a mitigation rotation at the same time while you're fighting the boss. It's a dance. And Warrior has a very low cast per minute. So you can get away with just casually having a go at it. Not only that, but Paladin has the unfortunate happenstance of suffering from breaking a combo, as we've discussed before. It can feel punishing. In a lot of ways, Paladin's awesome. Multiple mitigation for the party. They can heal. But if you wanted to not focus on your rotation, Warrior is the job where you'll be able to turn your brain off a little bit easier than the others. And I think that's why people talk about it being very unga and bunga, right? Uh, how about you? How do you feel about that, Chris?
So I think when we look at all four tanks, I always recommend to start with Paladin or Warrior, regardless of what level they start. So even if they do have them all unlocked, I still think I would recommend to go back and start with those. As somebody who spends the vast majority of their time in casual content, normal content, if I'm running old extremes, I'm unsynced, so everything just falls over. I think either Paladin or Warrior works for that because honestly, the normal content in this game is tuned to be cleared by somebody that just wants to enjoy the game. It doesn't actually have barriers that say if you don't get better, you can't get past this.
I mean, a
But
lot of old fights don't even have enrages, right? If you're not in Savage, you're not in Extreme. It's just they go forever
yep,
until the boss dies.
and they got handrails on stuff. You're not getting knocked off a lot of these platforms. They're very gentle.
Sure.
But I would say what I will let you know is that like Paladin, to play Paladin at that level, you're instilling yourself with a bunch of habits because you could technically play Paladin and not even know there is a magic rotation, and you would clear all normal
That's
content.
true.
Now,
That's
Paladin
true.
mains that are in Ultimate are like, please don't say that, but there are Paladins out there that get all the way through the end of MSQ and they have there's no limit break on the bar, there's no roll actions on the bar, they're not using their magic rotation, and they cleared all the content. They put on their tank stance, they did their physical rotation, and it worked out. Because you got a shield, you got clemency, it's fine. And honestly, Paladin with clemency feels very straightforward to see where the health regen comes from. As opposed to Warrior, you kind of got to read your tooltips to see where it comes from. There's a lot in there, but you got to read to get to it. So I actually find that like sword and board, especially for people that come from other MMOs, feels very natural as a tank. Like having the big shield feels very natural. But I imagine that as a casual player, I'm probably doing them a giant disservice in the distance between there and how much better they're going to have to get it in game, as opposed to with Warrior, it's really hard to
Yeah.
have too many bad habits because honestly, if you're fell cleaving, you're kind of doing it right. like
Warrior's got
you're
the big tell, right? You've got that gauge filling up, and you're like, there's something going on there, and
right,
that's really all you're interacting with.
right,
Especially true now after, in Endwalker when our OGCDs are going to lose their gauge cost, right? So really, all that gauge is going to be for is the Felcleave,
correct.
or in dungeons you use Decimate, um, and that's especially true about your party mitigation. We've been running Uwu with Jesse Cox, and he was talking about how he's just learning too that like he's got buttons in places that he didn't hit in most other content, and now he needs to use them here in an ultimate where it's very precise.
Right. It's
And
shift
he's like,
9. It's
"Oh,
like,
what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't even have limit break on my bar." That's actually one of the things. He used limit break on other roles, but on tank, it's very rare. It's very rare that you need to do it. So yeah, having buttons in places that are, maybe a little bit more or less intuitive. And I would say that, honestly, I would probably say that warrior and paladin both suffer in a way from not giving you your rotation naturally as you level up. You kind of get it out of order. And a lot of jobs in this game do that.
So I used my first boost when the boost went on sale. I've heard a lot about people boosting, and they come in and they say, sometimes you hear somebody like, "Hey, somebody said this would be easy, and I have a question," and I'm always like, "I don't really know." And so I boosted my monk from 39 to 70. Just to see what boosting felt like. And it's weird. It like logs you out, your screen fades to black, like it messed up my gear sets, and so I was like, wow, I'm really glad I had this experience. And it's with a class that I wasn't having fun leveling. But what is interesting is I was not enjoying monk as they were drip feeding me abilities through ARR. Because getting sub 50, no job is complete, and monk felt particularly incomplete. But at 70, I actually found, okay, let's read all the tooltips. I moved them all to the left side of my hotbars, and then I was slowly moving them over. And because I was able to drip feed at a pace that made sense to me, I actually feel I was learning faster at 70 boosted.
Some people learn too slow as you're leveling. And
at 39,
it can actually knock people out of wanting to play the game.
And I
Especially
felt
if you have no OGCDs.
And you're setting patterns in keybinds that later you're going to have to change because you're like, actually, there's something else that you're going to need to have a more comfortable key for. So that needs to move to a less comfortable key position because it's honestly
That's even true from 70 to 80. Some jobs you get to 80 and then it completely changes.
So I think Warrior does a really good job of maintaining its rotation compared to Paladin, but but Gunbreaker gets basically a full rotation handed to it because it starts out at such a high level. So that's a fair point.
Everything except for their quality of life, right? They get Bloodfest later, but when you unlock the job, you're good. You're going to need to put continuation on your bar, but you're good.
Right.
Which is awesome. So I recommend Gunbreaker rarely. But I will recommend it if somebody's like, look, I've been playing Ninja, right? I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, go for it. They're like, I want something very high APM. I'm like, this is the perfect tank for you. That's what you want.
So does that question change at all? Sometimes people come in and their eyes are bigger than their stomach, and they come in and they say, hey, I just downloaded the game. This is going to be my first MMO, and I know that I want to clear ultimates. What tank is the best tanks for that content? Like, does it change at all if somebody is saying, I'm trying to think a lot further out. I'm willing to push through suck if it ultimately gets me
experiencing
further.
Goals. But the goals really only change the answer if they want to speedrun explicitly.
Okay.
Which now we have to wait, right? We don't know final potencies of Endwalker, so this expansion is done. So we're all going to clean slate that answer. But if somebody plans to get into any type of hard content, then I say warrior. If they just want to do any content, I'll literally just tell them play whatever you want. If Dark Knight looks cool to you, you want a big sword, get a big sword, right? But if you want to not think too much and you want to get into Savage, and it's especially if it's your first MMO, there's so many things that, I mean, even an HP bar above the head might not be something they've played in other games. So just looking for those things, debuffs, buffs, huge things, and you don't want to be managing, like let's say Dark Knight, for example. You don't want to have to be looking at your mana and figure out if you have enough to defend yourself when Paladin could just press Sheltron, right? You know that if you've attacked the boss long enough, you're going to have a block. You're going to have a Sheltron. If you're on Warrior, you know that you're going to have mitigation available. And those two jobs are going to teach it to you as you go. Dark Knight gets their TBN, which you need to level a little bit before you get it. And then when you do, it's something that might be a little difficult to get. You may not time it properly, and it does have that drawback to it, the cost to loss ratio with the mana. Gunbreaker, I really like Gunbreaker, but I know that not everybody wants something active, so my answer changes based on what the user wants. And sometimes you'll get people come into the game, right? They'll be like, Chris, this game seems really slow, right? You're like, just play Plaster Realm Reborn, but the combat also feels really slow. They might want Gunbreaker.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I find that with tanking, when I feel the content slow, I hope to God the healer's ready to go. Because I just speed up, right? I'm just gonna pull faster. And then if we wipe, I was pursuing what I thought was fun. So that wipe doesn't bother me. But I'm aware that there's 3 other people that are like, dude, Like we have to
Dude,
hit
we're
the log
struggling.
reset button, and like I'm laughing, like I'm literally on this side of the screen, like just having a blast. Like let's just go. Oh, guess that's too much. Let's pull that -1. And so I have a lot of fun. And so to end this topic, this first topic in this series of videos on something kind of fun, if you replayed the story today without talking spoilers, which tank do you think would be the best tank to replay the story as? Not knowing Endwalker's story yet, as of this film.
You're talking. I'm just going.
Just
single player experience, or to interact with the story itself.
You're going to replay the story through New Game Plus. You're going to run each dungeon and trial once. I don't know what your goal, if you had to do that, would be. Okay. Are you trying to re-enjoy the dungeons as you go? Are you trying to immerse yourself in the story? Is it an RP experience? Like, I don't know where you even go with that.
Is this a spoiler-free video?
Yeah, but you can talk super vague.
Okay.
Super vague.
Warrior has a wonderful relationship with the MSQ where it's not directly tied in, but at the end you're like, I'm glad I was a warrior for this.
Do you think that's because they were the Warrior of Light, and so anytime they refer to a job, it's the Warrior, but anytime they refer to Warrior of Light, we just, like, we're doubling up on the number of mentions?
I mean, Yoshida-san's favorite job is Black Mage, right? But please tell me you haven't also thought, at some point during the expansions, you're like, Warrior's kind of getting a little bit of a neat treatment to this. They're kind of the baby. It definitely feels like it. They're the staple. They're like the Mario of Final Fantasy, right? Like, you can bring a warrior to any party, and they're gonna do what they do well. They're there to just be average, right? They're there to not suck. They're there not to be necessarily the best anymore, I feel like, but they're there and they're gonna do what they do. I would probably still go through on Warrior. I would probably still go through on Warrior. Gunbreaker is awesome. I love Gunbreaker, but I've always had this love for Warrior, and I think it'll stay there forever.
Okay. I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I also think that if you're going back through content that's mindless, there's something really satisfying about, like, you only have to kill one monster for a quest, so you just pop in a release and fell cleave it in the face. Like, because you know it's going to be off cooldown by the time you get to the next quest. So you're like, I didn't need to fell cleave it. I'm going to fell cleave it. No Eye of the Sword. That's my opener. In a release, fell cleave the crap out of it. It's really, and you're like, that sheep didn't have a chance,
right? Which is nice. They get AoE at a very low level, and they can heal themselves. So if your healer goes down in a dungeon, maybe you have a new experienced person, or an AoE just catches them. Yeah. You're probably not going to wipe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think Gunbreaker feels incredibly overpowered in low-level content. And so I think charging through things, it would feel fun. I think it looks aesthetically awesome. I think the way it stands in cutscenes is always really awesome. Just the way that it stands, it has a great presence in cutscenes. But ultimately, even though it plays well, I don't enjoy the playstyle at so low sync level as much as that low level,
which is reasonable,
warrior AoE, that cone. And I think the cone gives you a chance to kind of like, I'm going to wiggle it left, I'm going to wiggle it right. It's hitting them either way, but like it feels more... Like, it feels like I'm getting player agency in my rotation.
Yeah, and in Endwalker, we're going to get our damage buff, which is going to make it even easier. You won't have to do that single target to get it up. And in addition to that, we're going to have... I just feel like, I don't know, I have this really big love for Warrior. I don't think Dark Knight gets that love. They don't get AoE till later. And just hearing the community's feedback, too, sometimes they'll be like, is there a reason why Gunbreaker is the weakest of the tanks? It's just so squishy in dungeons? And I'm like, it doesn't have to be. You might just have to play your cooldowns better. But like, yeah, but I don't have to do that on Warrior. Ever. You're right. You don't. So from a new user perspective, I think Warrior takes the cake in all of those regards. But if you wanted to get into a very niche end game thing, maybe your focus was... I think for Heaven on High, you want to try to solo that. Gunbreaker and Warrior are both really, really good at it.
Dark Knight mains are by far the most proud of their job of the four. Dark Knight mains will absolutely tell you. They're very proud. Like I ask you what your favorite is, and you say Gunbreaker. And I ask somebody else what they like about tanking, and they say Paladin. And like Warriors are like, oh yeah, I like Warrior. But like you go, hi, I'm Chris, and they go, cool, I like Dark Knight. Like they're very, like Dark Knights are definitely proud of their class.
So what video games do you play? I play Dark Knight in Final Fantasy XIV. Like what? You don't just play 14? No.
Cool.
You don't understand the size of the sword and the attacks and the magic and the finesse of the abilities and their skills and their animations. They're just the top. You don't understand. Away. Paladins, be gone. You can off tank. I'm the Dark Knight. It's great. You're right. Dark Knights have a lot of passion. Dark
good.
Knights have a lot of passion.
It's a good side story too. Cool.
It's probably my favorite Job Quest series. There's a lot of them that I skipped because I got bored. Um, Dark Knight's not one that I did that with. Dark Knight and Dragoon are really good.
Very good.